Hi there, my name is Andrea, and this is High Literature, a program where I introduce books and comics to you, the viewer. In this video, I am going to talk about Volume 1 of Strangers in Paradise by Terry Moore. Um, I have been revisiting this series because he recently started a new one. This series started back in the early 90s, and today, in the year 2022, we have Parker Girls. This is issue number 2. It came in Monday, and I've been waiting until tonight to read it. And that'll be in another video. I'm gonna do my second reaction read video because people seem to like the first one. So I'm gonna do it again, and I enjoyed it. It was fun. But I figured while I was doing these reaction reads as the issues were coming in for the Parker Girls series, I would do a separate video going through the collection of Strangers in Paradise, the series that preceded this. I'm going to cheat a little. I was thinking about it in my head, and the thought of just talking off the cuff about why I love this graphic novel so much terrified me. So I typed a little paper that I'm just gonna read from, and I'm hoping that as time goes on, I won't need to do this. But in the meantime, while I, do need this as a crutch, I guess, I just figure, it'll help me with my writing, and it's just a nice exercise. Man, Robert is kind of distracting me right now. He is going bonkers with this catnip bag he found, and he's just so cute. But anyways, so yeah, this came out. This is a second printing from February 1995. My God. I'm still in debt from last year's big push to break into the comic book business, and although Strangers in Paradise received critical acclaim, it had little bitty print runs compared to the really big comics, like Barbie. But that's okay, because all I really wanted to do was lose myself in this story about two girls and a guy who gets to know them. And I did. I've never known a field to embrace the newcomers and help them along like the comics business. I just think that's so sweet. That's something, it's an intro by Terry Moore, and then he goes on to list a bunch of people in a thanks and gratitude segment. And it's just, I love that. I think it's so sweet. Um, I didn't read this till, this is the first one in the series, but I didn't read it till much later. It was something that I went back and revisited after discovering the series with the high school graphic novel that I talked about in my last Strangers in Paradise video. Hello, Cleo. So after I discovered that one, I had to go back and read everything else I could find about it, which was really hard because it was the 90s, regardless of whether or not you worked in a comic book store, because I'm a kid, so it wasn't like I could just tell my parents to order me the stuff because I wanted to read it. So it took time to go back and dig up and find past stuff, and even to get new stuff was hard. We're so lucky now between artist sites and actual brick and mortar shops that carry more stuff now, and things like eBay, and just it's so much easier to get now, obviously, than it ever was before. But yeah, going back and revisiting, well, not revisiting, but when I went and read this for the first time, it was just so interesting to me because you just kind of get the origin of these characters and where they started and came from. And it's funny because where this story takes place in volume 1, in the chronology of the series, this is kind of in the middle. There's a lot going on, but It's wonderful. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why. So, it's not very long, just a quick little choop-choop. This is probably, gosh, I'd say this is the thinnest volume. Besides, let's see here. Number 3 is pretty thin. But the rest, yeah, are hefty little guys. This graphic novel is comprised of 3 single issues, as well as some extra stuff towards the end. But, you know, that accounts for why it's so slim. But, yeah, I just love it so. The whole thing is just, I've got to say, charming. The Comics Journal. Isn't the Comics Journal great? That's something I would like to start collecting. But I'm scared that as soon as I try, I'm going to find out that it's going to be a really hard thing to do. I just have this feeling that those are hard to get as far as back issues are concerned. But anyway, without further ado, my little piece about Volume 1, Strangers in Paradise. So, I'm a petite, half Asian woman, and it's easy for people to make a lot of assumptions about me on sight. She went to college, she's multilingual, she's good at math, she's a bad driver. This creates an interesting situation, leaving people with 2 choices. They can make an effort to take the time to actually get to know me, or lazily coast on their knee-jerk reaction assumptions. This is how Strangers in Paradise works. On sight, it appears to be a pretty basic story with fairly predictable characters. We have before us a weak-willed woman who lacks the word no in her vocabulary. There's the angry feminist with daddy issues. And then, of course, we can't forget about the misogynist men making their lives miserable, or the doe-eyed Christians trying to save them. It's a veritable dogpile of stereotypes. But if the would-be reader makes the effort to peer deeper into the pigeonholes, they'll come to realize there is so much more to this world than cookie-cutter characters with sappy soap opera lives. This is a story about individuals attempting to find peace. Often cited as the comic book for people who don't read comic books, it is unconventional by typical comic book standards, with the heroes and villains being deeply flawed people navigating the tumultuous landscape that is life, rather than superheroes battling alien villains in other dimensions. Even the cover to Terry's debut graphic novel is unorthodox. It's completely blacked out, save for a pair of eyes that make you wonder what happened to that person. It's easy to assume they took a solid sock to the face, and given the aforementioned details, it's easier still to assume the blow is delivered by an abusive boyfriend. Surprise, it isn't. Spoiler alert, it happened in a car accident. This is a perfect example of how easy it is to make assumptions about the series and how wrong those assumptions can be. I get it though. It's not an easy task to look beyond the perceived caricature and invest time into getting to know something more intimately. Life is short, right? But good things come to those who wait, and as someone who has been reading this series for decades, I can tell you truthfully, this comic helped me make an incredibly difficult decision regarding a big question I had about my own life. But we'll get to that later. Strangers in Paradise begins with a flashback. We're at a high school play and are soon presented with Francine, a young girl struggling to keep her oversized costume on, and Kachu, Francine's cigarette-smoking bad girl gal pal. A classic high school hell moment plays out, with Francine losing her costume on stage, leaving her in her undies before the entire audience. What I call classic, others may call cliched, and they might be right. But to leave it at that is to decide not to dig deeper. Volume 1 is a light introduction to complex characters with stories and personalities that take time to unravel and reveal. Stop it, Cleo. There isn't much to a fetus, for instance. There's so little to a fetus, in fact, that there are arguments as to whether it's a valid thing to take into consideration at all. And as much as parents-to-be would love to know right off the bat everything there is to know about their baby, they have no choice but to wait and see how things develop. So they wait, ever so patiently, and I implore everyone to be similarly patient with this baby first volume. It is valid, it is worth consideration, and it grows into something amazing. And that's it. And yeah, these are all the graphic novels here. And it's just wonderful. So that's the little thing that I wrote. And just want to talk a little bit off the cuff now that I feel like I did my like just all over the place silliness. Now we're going to do that. I love, like a lot of people, when you read about different reviews and stuff, you read a lot of people saying how, you know, his art is kind of cartoony at the beginning, but you know, it gets more solid as it develops. But I like the cartooniness. You can tell this guy really loved his Looney Tunes, his Archie, as he should. I mean, we're standing on the shoulders of giants, right? And just the way he captures facial expressions and hand gestures and body language, it's just fantastic. There's this little sequence here where Francine is having an argument with Freddie, and it's just this tiny little detail, but she's pissed, and she's saying, you know, oh, it's 1-800-SEA, and you can just, I just love that little thumb, how he draws that little thumb. I cherish that little thumb. I just love it. Just, and stuff like that, just little details of just, I mean, you can see the intensity, just, it's lovely. I love the art. It is different. Like, it does get more, I don't know, realistic, less cartoony, but it just, you can't really compare. They're both great. It's just, it's lovely. And also in this series, it does get kind of like there's this scene here where Kachu's like lugging like all this gear and stuff to this van, and this thing explodes, and it's just like all this, just this big hullabaloo, and it turns out like it was a rocket shell. And later on in the series, stuff like that doesn't happen. It's not quite so out there. But it gets out there in other ways, but just in the way that storylines develop and with the characters. And it's so easy for me to just get lost in this. I kind of want to like show pages of art here and compare it to other pages of art so you can see, but I don't know, I kind of feel like that's cheating. We're just gonna progress slowly, volume by volume, as we go along. But like I was saying before, it's an introduction, and like most things, when you're first getting to know something, you feel like that, oh, this is, you feel like you already know, because it's just so simple and basic. But then, you know, you put a little more time into it and you dig a little deeper and you realize, oh, there's actually more to it than what you initially think off the bat. There's this funny little page here going into how, you know, this is not, you know, your everyday superhero comic. It's, don't miss our next action-packed issue. See this hunky dude flex his pecs and save the world. And then Kachu's at the bottom going, over my dead body, you dirty stinking son of a, and Francine's pulling her away saying, oh, I'm sorry. And it's just funny little stuff like that. I love it. And I mean, Kachu's just so mad. She's like, what the hell are you doing? Oh my God, I'm so sorry. It's so silly and it's fun. And then it gets really serious, and then you have like little, God, I love this page so much. I guess this is what they call slice of life, but there's this like I almost want to say, you know, it's a shot, but you know, we're not talking about a movie, it's a comic. But you got this page here, and you know, it's somebody's desktop, and it's their open journal, and you can see what they're writing, and you know, they have their glasses, and you see like an earring here, and there's a ticket stubs to a Bjork show, and you see somebody's like phone number written on a piece of paper, and it turns out it's Kachu's. And you know, this is shortly after this character, David and Kachu, meet for the first time. So he's got her number written. And it's just, I just love little stuff like this. And you get this throughout the series where it'll be like these separate standalone pages that are just little intimate peeks into what kind of music they like and just all the junk that they have going on. Like, you know, everybody does. I mean, it's like, I don't know, it's kind of voyeuristic, but not in a creepy way. And then you flip over to the next page and you see Kachu. Oh, she likes Bjork too. Oh, they both like Bjork. Everybody loves Bjork. Who doesn't love Bjork? And here's another, like, you see, she gets into some trouble and, you know, the police show up at her door and it's just this whole thing. And, you know, like, this is another example of how it's kind of cartoony and it's kind of silly and it's kind of over the top, and that tampers down a little bit, you know, as the series progresses, and it becomes less cartoony and more serious. And you see for the first time signature Parker Girls move. Kachu's in her cell and there's this cop that's just harassing her and just being a total dickhead, and she takes care of him. Is that the... Yeah, it doesn't last long. Oh my god, I love it. It's... Where is it? Well, and then I had a really nice time. And then they put in the little music notes there, and you know that she's just like kind of mocking him. That's fun. But yeah, this is an intro to the main characters, and it ends on a happy note, which is nice because most of these do not end on a happy note. No, 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 no. And then we have kind of this little offshoot, almost joke story. Meow, meow, meow. They're at the grocery store and they're each having separate daydreams of what their life would be like if they were, you know, in some other relationship, and it's just completely different. Francine's take is just so, oh, it's just gonna be so sweet. And then we have Kachu over here, and she's just, it's not very good in her daydream. And it's just lovely. And then we get the very end here, we get the sketchbook, and we get to see all the little drawings and sketches that everything sprang from. And I just love stuff like this. You really see, let me show you just the guts of everything. I mean, I could just dig through people's sketchbooks all day long if you let me. And then there's this little comic here. Where did you get the idea for Strangers in Paradise? Is a question I've heard a lot. I don't know, I usually reply, because the answer is so long and undoubtedly boring. I don't know where to begin. Truth is, I started out wanting to draw a newspaper comic strip and tried one idea after another before I realized I hated the gag-a-day life and really wanted to tell a story instead. Fortunately, by that time I had quite an eclectic collection of characters and ideas to draw from. One of my earliest strips was about an enchanted forest filled with cigar-smoking toads, wino owls, punk ducks, and a beautiful blonde wood nymph named Kachu. Oh my gosh, this is such a cute... Oh, I forgot about this. Yikes, mama. Buttons! So Kachu began as a happy-go-lucky wood nymph. Weird, huh? That is weird. She did have a cousin named Madison, though. Her manner may seem more familiar, and yeah, Madison is kind of grouchy. Yeehaw, y'all. Yeah. It's great. You really should read it. You need to get it. Go to the Abstract Studio website and just get everything. Do yourself a favor. Oh, it's so good. And that's it. I'll go ahead and end this now. Thank you so much for coming and for watching and listening to me prattle on about my little nerdy stuff. I'm going to do another video now, and it's going to be a reaction read to Parker Girls Summertime. I'm so excited. All right. See you later. Bye.